Welcome to Rock Shop Talk. Our show talks best practices, fun anecdotes, and the latest cutting-edge technology in our field to kick your screen printing gears into hyperdrive. Today's episode features the topic of the ROQ Eco and the power of automation for screen printers, and we're joined by our special guest, Danny Gruninger of Denver Print House,
and ROQ US's own sales and consulting expert, which is me, Thomas Shaw. We're pumped about our exclusive limited time moving sale, which launched last weekend. If you can, reach out to us ASAP to take advantage of the 20% off savings on specific ROQ presses. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll be right back.
So I want to welcome everybody back. Today's episode features the ROQ Eco and the power of automation for screen printers. We are joined by our special guest, Danny Gruninger of Denver Print House, and ROQ US's own sales and consulting expert, Mr. Thomas Shaw. I am ROQ US President and General Manager Ross Hunter, alongside of our creative producer, Mr. Merrill Capps. How's everyone doing?
Excellent. How are you?
I'm fantastic. It's a great day.
Good.
There's sun outside, which in the Pacific Northwest is a really nice treat. How are you doing, Danny?
Ross, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here, you guys. It's really fun to be a part of this.
Absolutely, man. I love that giant screen right there. We're going to have to demo, even though I feel like it's a pretty just awesome background you got going on.
You came prepared.
I had to put the Eco up there so I could press buttons and pretended fetch pallets, and
it's so easy you can work from a chair.
So
there you go. That's awesome, man.
It's a for sure fitting background for today.
Well, I wanted to start out and just kind of introduce the Eco, and I'll let Thomas and Danny kind of talk about the press itself. You know, we've got a few different lines of presses, starting from the U. We've got a new model that just came out, the Fit, which is a exclusive just 4.8 model. It's not upgradable. The U comes in many different configurations, awesome press. And then we launched the Next at the beginning of this year. And then we've launched a new version of the Eco 2 as well this year. And Danny, I think you've got a first generation Eco in your shop. So it'd be kind of cool to talk about the Eco, the differences that we've made this year. And I'll kind of let you guys sort of take it over, explain the press and really what makes it stand out, from our other models as well as from other presses on the market.
Yeah, I'll jump in here and start. I definitely look at the Eco as the M7 of ROQ presses. So if you kind of take the analogy of, a BMW car, you've got an M3, an M5, an M7. And, I always looked at the ROQ U as like the M3. It's, super solid, really good press. Kind of the lower end of the models though. And then you'll step up into the Next, which, I kind of look at as an M3 and then, or an M5. And then you'll step up into the Eco, which would be, the M7, which is kind of BMW's cream of the crop. They put all the features and options on that press. And that's really how I look at the Eco in the ROQ line.
Awesome. And Thomas, you want to talk about some of the just technology differences between, those three, and then kind of specifically what makes the Eco stand out in terms of those features?
Absolutely. The U press, which Danny mentioned, and compared it to kind of the first press in our lines, that press operates with a Geneva drive, and that Geneva drive, while it's a proven technology and is a super old technology, there are some things on a Geneva driven press than you'd have on like a chain driven press, stepping up to like the Next or the Eco. And I think that, I think Danny really nailed it between kind of going through the line and saying, the U is a very functional press. It comes with a few features that make printing really easy. The Next is going to be a press that kind of ties in the best features of the Eco, which we'll talk about today, and some of the best features of the U, and then it puts it into a press in the middle of the line. The Eco, as I think Danny can definitely say, it's a press that fits a certain type of business and a certain type of production staff to really be able to unleash what a press like that is capable of. And I think Danny will be able to hit on some of that today with us.
Awesome. And I know, a lot of folks out there, it's like, you get a car, you get all the bells and whistles, call it the M7, right? And you've got people, I guess to Thomas's point, that get into that car, they read the manual, they know what everything does. Or you have someone like me that buys a car like that, gets in it, and still uses the Bluetooth connection on my phone to run my map software because I have no interest in learning about all the features. So kind of in that vein that Thomas said, when you get into a press like an Eco, just like an M7, it's important to understand what all those features are, what they all do, how do you utilize them for your production, to best optimize your operations, get the best prints, et cetera, et cetera. So definitely a little bit more of a learning curve in terms of the technology, but once you figure it out, does a lot for your business. What are the big differences, Thomas, in the sizes? So obviously, the press configuration is one thing. You can get a 6-color Eco, you can get a 20-color Eco, you can get as many pallets as you want. These are all customizable, but they come in different size variations. So there's an L, there's, an XL, a 2XL. Can you kind of go through that?
Definitely. So we realized that whenever we first rolled these presses out, we sold nothing but the XL format. And the more that we were in these shops in the US market or places with crazy high overhead, or just a packed facility, there were times where maybe an Eco XL, maybe the footprint was just too big for what this company needed. So that being said, the first actual size that we offer in that line is the L size, which is a smaller format in terms of the machine itself. But the print capability on that is still pretty large. I think it's about 19 by 25 on the L, and then on the XL, which I think is probably what Danny's running. His stock image area is almost it's 23.6 by 31.5. So as you start getting up, we do have an XL, we have a double XL with a larger print area, and a triple XL with a larger print area. Now, just depending and knowing what your audience is, or if you have a certain customer who can benefit from having that oversized print area, you might find a machine that's specific to what you're trying to cater to in terms of your customer.
Awesome. Very cool. And I'll shift this over to Danny. What specifically is the Eco done for Denver Print House? What was it like before you had it? How has it changed your operation overall? What kind of get into what it's done for your shop?
Yeah, to be totally honest, I think when we first heard that ROQ was coming to the United States with Ryanette, the Eco was really what attracted us to, the line of presses. I think the first trade show that we saw it at was 2013, Long Beach, sometime around then. And, my background, I come from, I started working in a machine shop when I was 13. I worked in a high performance engine building company from, 15, 16, till I basically started Denver Print House when I was 19. And it really gave me an appreciation for the mechanics and how things are put together and, how the manufacturer's actually machining the parts to go on these presses. Mm-hmm. So when I went to Long Beach for that first 2013 trade show and saw the ROQ Eco there, it was doing an inline foil job. It was doing an inline flock job plus multiple colors. And just how smooth the press ran, the capabilities, how the pallets went off and on the press, it really just attracted me toward, what ROQ was doing. So really just the features that we saw at that trade show, we were like, wow, this is, none of the other companies had inline foil at the time. And we had a clothing line that we were selling into Costco that was about 40,000 shirts every time Costco would place an order, and every single shirt had foil. So we were like, we really need a solution. We can't have a small army here of people heat pressing and, manually foiling 40,000 shirts. So once we saw the Eco doing the inline foil, it was almost, a no-brainer for us to look at the press and to really dive into it.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of what we did. Since then, the Eco, personally, it's my favorite press. So we've got the big oval here in the shop. We've got a Next, we've got a U, and I love those presses, but honestly, the Eco, we can throw any job at it, whether it's, a really high color count, technical sim process job, a flock job, an inline foil job, a one color job, an oversized job. The Eco's really just a good all around press for us. And I think that's what I love about it.
That's awesome. And I know one of the big features, when you talk about all these inline capabilities, specifically with the Eco, is being able to actually communicate from the computer module directly to the head that you've got special effects printing or you're doing something different, and being able to actually adjust that all within the computer instead of having to constantly walk around, change things. Is that kind of a big reason why you say it's your favorite and it makes it, the process simpler? Is it more from an operational standpoint?
Yeah, I think, one of the advantages that the Eco provides that a lot of the other presses don't is when you have a press with a really large footprint, and say you're printing a 4 or 5 color job to where you have screens spread out on the press. If you have an issue or you want to look at a test print on most of the other brands, you've got to physically stop what you're doing, walk all the way around to that screen. And that takes a lot of time. So, from my background in these machine shops, I think when I was like 14 or 15, one of the projects in the machine shop was we had to shave seconds off of run times for this one particular part that we were making millions of parts, over the course of a year. So if we could shave 2 seconds off that part, over the course of a year, we just saved thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I really looked at screen printing and, going into automation is, kind of the same way. How can we eliminate the operator from walking all the way around that press and just do everything from the control panel? And that's really what the Eco provides.
And going back to Thomas's point, that's kind of the big benefit in having the chain drive too, because it can move in both directions. You can auto recall, you can tell it which pallet you want to look at, and it automatically swings it back, and it does it in the quickest direction. So it's like the computer recognizes, wait, it's over here, let me spin this way, or wait, no, it's over here, let me spin it the other direction to get it back to you fast. So, and that's awesome. People don't realize, those steps, just walking. Yeah. And it's kind of funny, I've consulted shops, so have you, for years, and I can't tell you how many times I've walked into businesses and their dryer is 2 steps from their press. And that simple thing of making that 1 foot, 2 foot adjustment closer, if you actually run a time study on it, saves a ridiculous amount of time and increases your production speed. So, with this press, it's similar in the sense that you don't have to walk around it. It's right there ready to do what you want to do. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, we looked at, there's definitely, in my mind, some disadvantages with having a big press, but with all the stuff that the Eco has, it really eliminates a lot of those things. Changing pallets on a press to where you have one lever and it's only a matter of seconds versus multiple cams or, a different lever system to put a pallet on and off. It makes it so easy that having the big press really doesn't play that big of a role, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
I think between that and also I was talking to one of our customers this week that was looking at an Eco machine, and they're a current U customer. And one of the things we talked about was the high lift feature, which is something that we have on the Eco presses. And basically what that feature does, it allows you to kind of, once you've got your job registered, say you ran off your registration marks, if you press the high lift button, all of your heads raise. You can tape off your registration marks, wipe off any residue or lint or whatever it is, lower your press back down, and you're in operation. You're not having to find your star or release your star and move pallets over and things like that. I think between that and then just being able to take advantage of a half step or a half index back whenever you run a test print, small things like that are really what gives you a more efficient press and team.
Absolutely.
Going back to what you were saying earlier, Thomas, can you maybe both you and Danny speak to when is it most appropriate to level up to an eco?
I mean, I'll jump in and try to tackle that. From our experience, I think the shops, they need to ask themselves, do they have a bottleneck on their press? And also, do they want more capabilities? Like I said, the eco allows us to print everything from, award-winning 12, 14 color simulated process to, special effects to where we're blending flock and foil and crackle inks and HDs and all that type of stuff. So I think you have to look at it in, two different lenses. Are you needing it for the efficiency standpoint? The press index is faster. You'll be able to print more shirts on an eco versus U just for the pure fact that it indexes quicker. Or do you want the eco to be able to put out more special effects, more colors, without the troubles and the pains that a lot of the other presses, they put you in really tough spots sometimes when you're trying to do a really difficult job on a press that's not really set up for that. So I think it kind of goes both ways. If your press is not fast enough, or you want a little bit more to offer your clients.
Yeah, and I think that Danny really nailed it with that. And kind of to add on to what he was saying, whenever you have this press in operation, just because it indexes faster, like it absolutely has the highest cycle count in our line. So I mean, these things are rated, anywhere between 1,200 and 1,400 pieces per hour. And a lot of times people say, well, my operators can't load at that rate. And they're thinking the wrong way, because they're not thinking, well, if the press index is faster, that means my setup and my breakdown, all of these things add up at the end of the day. And, you're getting that advantage of the fetch palette feature. You're getting the advantage of the half step back, and all those things really add up. I think in addition to that, this particular press and the operating system we have on there, whenever I think Ross asked, like, when is the right time, or Merrill asked, when is the right time? I do think that once you get to a place where you make a major investment like the eco, you want to be tracking what's going on that press. Mm-hmm. And there's some job tracking software and some things built into the press that allow you to actually look at your production and integrate that into like what you're expecting out of that press each day.
So it's part of helping really like streamline your operations.
Yep. And sets expectations. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, great
guys.
One
feature that I wanted I just thought about that, has really benefited us at times is the difference of the indexing system on the U to the eco with the chain drive. When you double index, you can go 2 stations at one point, where on the U it has a pause there. So there's been a lot of times where we get into a really large contract job and say we've got a single color sleeve that we're printing. We'll actually set up 2 screens on the press side by side. We'll be able to put 2 loaders, 2 unloaders on that press, and we'll be able to print about 2,500 shirts an hour on just one press. So, depending on the type of work that you have in your shop, the eco allows you to do a few things like double index that, while you can do it on the U, it's just not near as efficient.
Oh, that's an awesome point.
Yeah.
Well, cool, guys. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we will be right back to talk more with Danny and Thomas about the eco. Stay tuned. We're excited to announce that we're moving warehouses and running our first ever ROQ moving sale. 20% off of the following units: the ROQ Fit 4-color 8 station, the ROQ U 6-color 8 station, the ROQ U 6-color 10 station, and the ROQ U 8-color 10 station. For details on this exclusive limited time opportunity and other expert solutions, please visit roq.us. That's ROQ.us, or call 187-ROQ-IT-NOW. That's 1-877-674-8669. So I want to welcome everybody back to ROQ Shop Talk, your one-stop ROQ shop where we discuss all things screen printing. Today's episode features the ROQ Eco and the power of automation for screen printers. And we are joined by Danny Gruninger of Denver Print House and ROQ US's own resident sales and consulting expert, Mr. Thomas Shaw. along with our creative producer, Mr. Merrill Capps.
Good afternoon.
So I want to dive back into the eco. We've talked a little bit about, special effects, the ability to add essentially, different components to this press to make it do what you want to do. I wanted to elaborate on that a little bit and get into all the different things that people can add and what sets the eco apart in terms of getting those attachments on quickly, getting set up and running a production job. So Danny, do you want to kind of dive into what you guys are using on yours, and and Thomas can kind of chime in with what some other things are out there. And I know we're actually about to start working on a really big project in your facility, setting up a digital hybrid. So we can kind of touch on that as well. So I'll let you take the floor, man.
Yeah, we're always taking advantage of the eco and what attachments we can put on it. So just the other day we were running, I think it was a large contract job for Jack Daniels, and we were putting on a really, really linty garment. So one thing that we did in head one was we put the blower. So there's, the ROQ has an attachment that you can put on, and you can put it after a flash, and it's really nice because it'll cool down the garment, typically around 20 to 25 degrees. So if you're printing a lot of colors after that, that attachment really, really helps. So what we did on that job is we put our blower, we connected it to the press. It's such an easy plug and play. I think it's maybe about 2 minutes to attach that air attachment to the press. So we had that on head one. On the next head, we hooked up our vacuum. So essentially we're blowing the lint on the shirt. And then on the next head, we're sucking that lint up. So the vacuum attachment that we traditionally use for flock, cleaning the excess flock on the shirt, we use that to suck up lint balls.
Oh, nice.
So that, just having those attachments that can easily integrate to the eco really makes our lives so much easier when we get into some of those long runs. And then the other attachments, the foil, like we talked about, the flock, they're so easy just to integrate, plug into the machine. Your control panel has all the connections to where you can easily tell the press where that particular add-on is. And then like you mentioned, what we're really, really excited about now is the addition to the hybrid. So ROQ's hybrid, we've got sitting back in the shop now, and we're looking to put that on we're really going to kind of prove the concept on the round presses to start, the eco, the next, even a U, the hybrid can go on. And then once we prove it on there, we'll put it over on the oval. And what's so cool about that is, we could essentially take a hybrid from our oval and then move it over to our eco. And that's what's really so nice about all the add-ons that ROQ makes is literally it's you've got a serial connection, an air connection, and a power connection, and level the thing out and you're good to go.
It's awesome. Wow. And Thomas, do you want to touch on some other, attachments and different things that are out there that integrate well into these systems?
Absolutely. So, Danny had mentioned a few things there, but we also, so Danny mentioned hybrid technology. They mentioned also running flocking and foiling on that machine. Things like the ROQ iron, if you're running on 3-phase power, it plugs directly into the press. And like Danny said, it's a quick visit to the control panel. You're able to designate where it's at, and then you resume printing. So it's a press that makes all those things very, very simple and easy to kind of add on to an existing press.
That's awesome. And then it's cool having multiple different presses that everything's kind of versatile too. So you can, like Danny said, if you're needing, foil happening on your eco and you need to pull your iron off your eco because you get a job on the U that needs the iron, you can kind of mix and match. So that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, the connections that ROQ has built into the presses, even when I went from, my old facility, we were running 2 facilities and we had 5 M&R machines between those 2 facilities. And then when we built our new facility, we saved so much money in just our power and our airdrops because we only had to have 1 power drop per press rather than, like on our oval now, there's a lot of times where we'll run 8 flashes on that press for various special effects or water-based colors that we, absolutely have to flash. And the fact that we were able to put one power drop to that press and then all the flashes just integrate into the base really saved us a ton of money. And, our electrician was even like, this is amazing. Every company should design equipment like this to where you can just plug right into it.
Yeah, no, it is awesome. It's a huge, huge feature. I remember in my shop, jumping over huge electrical wire all the time. In fact, having to jump over places when I was trying to get to a screen to actually do something. So no, definitely a big point to make there. What about maintenance? I mean, I know the Eco's got, some really big features when it comes to maintenance. And I know the Eco 2 that was just released this year has got even a little bit more added to that. So can you guys kind of speak on, maintenance in general on the Eco, what it does for you, certain things you need to think about, and then maybe, some stuff that's happened to you that we've had to replace, you've had to replace, and kind of what that process looks like?
Yeah. So on our Eco, it's, knock on wood, we've had virtually no issues with that thing. Honestly, I can't think of one time that press has been down. Really the biggest maintenance that we've had to do on our Eco here was, I believe every 1.5 million or 2 million cycles, you need to put a new chain on the indexer. So we ended up hitting 2 million prints on our Eco, I believe about a year and a half ago.
Wow.
And so we ended up doing a new chain on it there. Our production manager at the time and myself, we did that maintenance. I think it took us about, I want to say an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes to do that and fully calibrate it. And then other than that, it's just been general maintenance, lubing up the print heads, really lubing the chain, super, super basic stuff. And what's nice about it is the press keeps a log for us. And then each time that it hits a maintenance cycle to where we do need to do maintenance, it'll put a reminder up on the screen. And then, our press operator that typically runs that press, he'll go get our production manager and let them know, hey, the press is telling me it needs maintenance. And then, either that night or within the next couple of days, we'll do maintenance on that machine.
One of the upgrades on the Eco 2 is that some of those maintenance schedules are automated on the Eco 2. So like, self-lubricating on the chain, I believe the print head drives and a few other things, you're able to, it basically maintains itself for you, but also does keep that log and lets you know where you're at. So some of that interval maintenance is, even that has been taken off your plate now.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I think they actually put a lubrication like cartridge in the new Eco 2 that sits above the chain, and then it auto just lubricates and keeps it going, which is really neat. Even though standard maintenance on a regular Eco is not difficult. I mean, it's lubrication and you're done.
Danny,
I know, back in the day, that was always one of our biggest pain points was the maintenance. Our old presses, they always had the oil canisters to where they would feed, the various, maybe the servo drive or whatever it was, keeping the airlines lubricated. And I mean, I don't know how many times we would let that canister run out of oil. And I mean, who knows how long that thing was out of oil for. And, when we looked at ROQ, that was one thing that was just such an amazing feature was the lack of maintenance that we actually had to do on the machine between keeping oil in it and then leveling pallets. I think I used to back, 10 years ago when I was running, 5 or 6 other autos, I would spend 2.5 hours every single week leveling pallets.
Wow.
And now, we've had our ROQs, I think, since 2015. So maybe about 5 years now. I think we've done one re-level since that time.
That's impressive.
And really, I mean, did it need a re-level? Probably not. But I mean, as a lot of people in the industry are aware, we're doing a lot of high color count, really pretty crazy jobs to execute. And so we like to keep our machines as, well calibrated as possible.
Danny, I did want to bring something up. I know that we had talked earlier about the U, the Next, and the Eco. But one of the defining features, I think, between the U and the Next, and the one thing that the Eco has that the other presses do not, is the piezo registration.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe you can talk a little bit about that. I do feel like the manual registration that we have on the U and the Next, it becomes a craft, but I feel like the registration on the Eco is more of a formula when you're setting up those higher color count jobs.
Yeah, it's definitely, the generations that are coming up, the people that we're hiring to run these presses, they're all living in this digital age. I mean, I think, I've got 3 kids that are, my oldest boy, he's 9, and I guarantee he can run a computer, an iPad, a phone way better than I can. So, I think it was really good that ROQ brought that technology into the press. Coming from the machining industry, everything is done in thousandths and 10,000ths of an inch. So now we're actually able to bring, there's a lot of states that allow companies to do job sharing programs. And, in the time that we're in now, people get creative to where, half their staff might be working at a machine shop during the day, and then at night they come work in the screen print shop. And having the piezo and the digital controls on all the heads really allows those people to come into our industry and adapt a lot quicker than, having the old registration bullet marks and, stuff that more of a craftsman, artist, printer, and less technical person might understand versus, the technology that's coming out on the presses now.
So just so our listeners can kind of visualize, I mean, we're using the words piezo and, we're talking about registration, but so they can visualize out there, can you kind of visually explain that in words? Like, what does that mean? Are we talking about, a digital screen on your print head, and instead of turning knobs for registration, you're actually able to put in, a 100th of a thousandth of a millimeter, and it moves, right and left. Can you kind of describe to our viewers what that means?
Yeah. So, I mean, ROQ definitely has the capability and, the option to put motorized micros on the print heads to where you can just press a button to move the actual screen around. Typically on the standard Ecos and the Ecos 2, you're still using what I would call a manual knob to actually adjust the screen and the registration. But what's different is you're actually looking at a screen, and the screen is telling you exactly how far in millimeters or thousandths of an inch, how far that screen is actually moving.
Gotcha. So the knob essentially is connected to the computer screen that's on the print head. And as you're turning that knob, you're getting a digital readout in a measurement.
How far that screen is moving. So if you could put a loop down on the screen, and it's pretty easy to say, oh, that might be 1 millimeter or 2 millimeter or 250 thousandths of an inch. And then you can pull up your digital screen, move your micro 250 thousandths of an inch, and it moved exactly that much.
Wow, that's very cool.
So it's the technology, and what I really like about it is they still have the old analog style registrations on the heads, but then they've also introduced the digital readouts. So it's kind of the best of both worlds.
And as we're talking about registration, and forgive me if I'm wrong on this, but I remember when I first sold my shop and came over here to ROQ, hearing a story, and I think there's a video tied to it, I'm not quite sure, of you doing over 200 different setups without ever touching a registration knob in a row. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we actually, it was a 2.5 week period that we went in the shop that we didn't have to micro on one job.
Wow.
And I think on the total amount of jobs at the time, we were doing about 160 screens a day. So, 160 screens times 10 days. We're, almost 2,000 screens that we did not have to micro through that period of time.
That's insane. Can you explain to our viewers, I know you have some other automated technology in your shop. You guys are obviously the kings of automation, pre-press, post-press, on-press, etc. What what got you there? So what all did you need for that to happen? Because I know, registration in our industry, from our new printers that are still printing manually to our first time auto owners, everyone's biggest issue beyond their customers is registration. It's the biggest hang up. So what all did you guys use? How did that work to get you to be able to do that many screens without touching a micro?
Yeah, so I think the foundation of it really starts with the screen. So, we're screen printing. The screen is, in my opinion, one of the most important parts of that process, and a tool that absolutely has to be at, the top of its shape and clean. And, we really, we spent a lot of time of figuring out what meshes we wanted to use, how we tension those meshes, what tension we bring those screens to. So really kind of dialing in the pre-press and our screen itself was really key to that process. I think that was kind of the first step to that. The second step was, getting a direct-to-screen system that can pair with a registration board really, really well. We've gone through a lot of direct-to-screens, and, out of all of them, they all do a really good job registering. It's just kind of fine-tuning and figuring out what you need to change on that direct-to-screen to, make it jive with the reg palette. Mm-hmm. So on our machine, we made a lot of adjustments between taking aluminum plates off of it, replacing those with steel plates, eliminating, the tension of the drum that puts on the screen mesh itself. So when we actually put a screen into the direct-to-screen, there's no tension on the mesh itself.
Gotcha,
so we really dialed in all those little things to make it work on press. And then what's so cool about the ROQ press and the pallet system is it's so stable and solid. When you lock the reg board on the press, that board is not moving. There's no play in it. There's no side-to-side movement. And, even if we have a job on the press that's, say, 10 colors and one screen, we might break a screen through the middle of a 10,000 piece run, we can put our reg board back on the press, go burn one screen, and just lock that one screen in, and it's going to line up with everything that's still on the press.
God, man, it's crazy, like, hearing this, and I'm sure you went through this years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, right? Where, you pop that screen. I mean, I remember those days and my heart stopped, right? You're in the middle of a run. I was in LA, so middle of summer, it's 112 degrees inside my shop. Screen pops, you've got your flow, the music's going, and then, like, you just get that feeling of like, well, there went the next 2 hours of my day, going back and getting the film, setting it back up, getting it back on press, jicking around with the registration knobs. So that's really cool to hear. Awesome.
I mean, I think we've gotten that process down, and, we don't break a lot of screens, but it's one thing that, I've always had the mindset that if our press isn't spinning, our company is not making any money at all. I mean, that people don't pay us to clean screens. They don't pay us to make inks. They don't pay us to do anything but print shirts. So when we would have our press go down, how do we build a process to get that press going as quick as we can? And I think we've got that, that down to under 5 minutes now. So if our press goes down with a screen, we can go back to the screen room, make a screen, dry that screen, tape that screen, put it back up on the press, and get the job started in under 5 minutes again.
That's
and
fantastic.
Really, we would have never been able to do that without the pallet system that ROQ developed. And, I think when I really think hard about one thing that gravitated me toward ROQ, it was all in the pallet system and how stable and rock solid. And I mean, I've seen guys that are like 300 pounds get up on a ROQ press and jump up and down, and they can't even deflect the pallet.
That's
and
awesome.
For me, when I was like, we want to try to print 85 line and 90 line and 120 line, and I'm watching all these other presses, and when the squeegee chops, the whole pallet is just flexing and going crazy. I'm like, from print to print, this can't be good, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you're watching one head on this side of the press flex down, and the other opposite press is going up. Mm-hmm. And with the ROQ Eco and all the ROQ presses for the matter, you just don't have that.
That's awesome.
It's great.
This was great, guys. Well, we're going to take another quick break, and we will be back with Danny and Thomas to talk more eco. See you soon.
To honor today's female leaders, Screen Printing Magazine is looking for 6 accomplished women who, through their careers, industry involvement, and philanthropic roles, have sparked innovation, spurred business growth, improved their communities, and enhanced the screen printing industry. Nominees must hold a leadership position at a company that produces screen printing as its primary function. Honorees will appear in the Screen Printing Magazine October and November 2020 issue. Please visit screenweb.com/womenprint no later than August 4th, 2020.
Want to welcome everybody back to Rock Shop Talk, your one-stop rock shop where we discuss all things screen printing. Today's episode features the ROQ Eco and the power of automation for screen printers, and we are joined by Danny Gruninger of Denver Print House and ROQ US's sales and consulting expert, Mr. Thomas Shaw, along with our creative director, Merrill Capps. So I want to kind of kick this back off talking about the ROQ Eco. And Thomas, I'll let you take the floor, man, on get into some features here with the operating screen and go from there.
Thanks, Ross. So on the break, Danny and I were covering a few things, about the Eco that's different. As you can see, and for our listeners here, Danny has a large screen behind him, which, that basically the operating system, the operating screen on the Eco is probably going to be the largest dimensions in terms of like on our presses. So, if you're there and you're operating at your loading and unloading station, you have the ease of this massive screen that you're able to take advantage of. So Danny, would you say that's definitely the largest of the screens that you guys have out of the entire line?
Yeah, it's super easy to understand. We really like how big the buttons are on the press, on specifically the Eco control panel. All the operators that jump on that press, they're always, super, super pumped about how the screen is laid out, how all the buttons are positioned. And, I think that's one thing that, another thing that really gravitated us toward ROQ was their ability to, if we wanted a custom software or a button moved on our control panel, or, for instance, maybe one of our guys had a hard time seeing something on it, ROQ has the ability to go back in there and retool and reprogram that to kind of give you what you want. And that was something that was always really, really awesome to us was, hey, these guys are going to take our feedback from people that are actually running the presses, because this button might be in a hard spot to hit or see, or it doesn't really make sense. And ROQ's been able to adapt and change that for us.
That's awesome. We actually had a customer, partner. I'm still getting used to changing my own nomenclature from customer to partner. It's, after so many years of being alive, that terminology is kind of ingrained. But we had a partner online that actually was colorblind to, I believe, red and green. And
Yep.
ROQ went in and reprogrammed his computer system to read out in different colors so he could see everything that's going on. I mean, it's like a perfect example of when that's necessary. Go ahead.
And then another thing, it's, not only in our shop, but a lot of print shops across the country, you'll go in and you'll see, a pretty diverse work staff. So we've got, a few people on our floor that, primarily they're speaking Spanish. So they can get on the control panel and with just one button push, they can change the whole control panel into Spanish.
That's awesome.
And that's super, super convenient for, when we onboard somebody, if, they might have, better Spanish than English, we can put them on a press, change the control panel, and they have a really good idea of what everything is doing because now they can read it. They're not just pressing buttons and stuff like that. They can actually go in there. They can hit help. The control panel will come up and give them a little narrative of what they're pushing. And it's just a really nice feature that ROQ put together on the display.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I feel like each operator kind of has their own quirks too. Like if they've been in other shops, like maybe the press that they were operating in that shop indexes to the left and your press is indexing to the right. So it's as easy as running into your program channel changing a few different things, and now your press is indexing to the left as opposed to the right. So all those
Yep.
things are so customizable, and like you said, a quick trip to the control panel, you change a few features, and you're off to the races.
Now, can ROQ load Netflix app on the screen? It is big, so I'm just saying, get your TV watching on while you're printing.
I know people should be watching this on there.
And Danny, also over the break, you and I were just kind of talking briefly about how you do have U presses on the floor, you do have Next and Ecos. The U presses operate with a central lifting cylinder, meaning that once you go to print, all of your print heads are down while you're printing. All of them are up, and whether they're in the lower position or a higher position, you can't really necessarily control that. So your screen is over your palette for a certain amount of time. Now on the Next and the Eco, that is a little bit different. And can you just explain to the audience a little bit about how it's different on those two?
Yeah, definitely. From a printing standpoint, with the individual lift cylinders, it definitely makes your life easier. For instance, if you've got a high color count job and you don't have room for a cool down after a flash, and you're printing a blocker underbase on your first head, and a lot of people know that blocker is usually pretty thick. You can't run a real fast stroke. You've got to slow down your squeegee to actually get that ink through the mesh. So what happens if you're running a press that has an individual lift cylinder or a centralized lift cylinder is that first head's printing so low, and your screen that's right after the flash, it's going to stay down on the pallet that whole time. So if you have an individual lifting cylinder setup, you can have your first screen going really slow, and it's not affecting a screen that's right after a flash. That screen that's after a flash, you can run a really fast stroke, and then it'll pop right back up. So from a printing standpoint, having individual lift cylinders, it definitely makes your life easier. Just from the standpoint that you can control your heat a lot better. And then, you can basically control how each head lifts versus you're only as good as your slowest guy with a centralized lift.
Oh yeah, and that kind of goes into like ink type too, right? And I know you do a ton of water base, and if you didn't have that, temperature control ability, just like you said, that slowest head's slowing everything down. And with water base, if everything's staying hot on the bottom of that screen, I mean, you're essentially curing ink to your screen every time. And I know I used to have those problems because I didn't have individual lifting heads on my press. And it's kind of funny because until this conversation, I never really thought about it, right? Of what a difference that makes. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
awesome.
when you watch the presses that have a centralized lift cylinder, the screens are sitting down on the pallet a lot longer in general. When they're sitting down there on the pallet longer, it's just going to build more heat. And, heat, while we like some heat, it's not the best thing for screen printing ink.
Absolutely. Well, and when we talk about attachments too, if you're running like, let's say a Stampinator or an iron, something that's intentionally producing heat. If you're running that central lifting system, it's just going to sit down there that much longer and heat up whatever is underneath it, including the pallet. So when it moves on to the next station, you're, double, triple as hot as you were before. So that's a really good point.
You bring up a really good point with the Stampinator because, if you have a Stampinator on a press that has a centralized lift cylinder, that's what's controlling, the dwell time of the Stampinator will control how fast the press can index. Where on the Eco, we've got a really nice feature on the control panel to where we can go in there, we can tell the press what head the Stampinator's on, and then we can tell it for how long we want it to stamp for.
Nice.
So we can stamp anywhere from a half a second just to give a quick little press to we could put 15 seconds, 20 seconds and fully cure a print on the press with the Stampinator.
That's awesome.
So I'm a big fan of the individual lift cylinders just for the fact that, it makes life a whole lot easier when you're printing a lot of colors and, you're using attachments and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And Thomas, for our viewers that don't know, can you just kind of explain what a Stampinator is and an iron?
Absolutely. So the ROQ iron is something that we came out with that helps you get rid of a few things that come up on press, whether it's like fibrillation, or maybe you want a desired effect. So maybe you want like a different type of finish than what you're getting just by printing directly on there. So the ROQ iron functions similar to like a squeegee or a flood bar would function inside of your screen, and it travels across your screen. The Stampinator is going to function more like an inline heat stamp. And I say heat stamp because it's a larger area, and it's basically stamping your garment and then raising itself back up. So it's not traveling like the ROQ iron. So just depending on your application, I mean, one shop might be a perfect application for the iron. Another shop might be a perfect application for the Stampinator. So really, the best thing in that case would be to talk to a sales rep or talk to another shop and ask them what kind of feedback do you guys have on each item in particular.
Awesome. And then the Eco ties it all together, and you just press a button after you buy it and say, hey, this is here. Do this. All right. Very cool. And I know we kind of talked earlier about moving these different types of attachments around. You guys want to talk about like the amount of command ports that are on the press and what sort of options that gives you? Because we said, the Eco, well, actually all ROQ presses, you have the one power drop if you're running 3-phase, and then it comes with what are called command ports, which are different ports around the base of the press that you can plug in different attachments, and that not only feeds that attachment power, but it also allows that attachment to communicate with the onboard computer system within the press itself. So with the Eco, what's kind of standard? What should people think about when they're, thinking about their shop, what they're wanting to do, how many command ports should they have, and how does that all function? So I'll let you guys roll on that one, whoever wants to take it.
I mean, I think from my standpoint, if I was going to invest in another Eco, which we definitely are going to be moving to soon, I would say a minimum of 5 command ports would be where I would start, because typically if you get a press, a lot of the inks these days, you got to run, especially the PVC free stuff, you've got to run 200 bases under that. So typically right there, you're looking at 2 flashes, maybe a flash and a stamp or a flash and an iron. And then if you want to put any other, attachments on the press, whether it's foil, flock, hybrid. So I would definitely suggest 5 ports per machine on an Eco, just so you can, take advantage of all the cool tools and things that really, speed up those long run jobs and, just make life easier. So I would say minimum 5.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. I think that's pretty dead on. And, I had this same conversation with the company located in San Diego, similar to what Danny's doing in terms of like wanting to put out apparel that's very different in the market. Things that are, and so offering some of those, the added accessories and flocking, foiling, iron, all of those different things. Just looking at the press behind you, Danny, and for our viewers that can't see at home, with the individual lifting cylinders, these print heads, you can typically on the U series, you would unfasten them and lift the print head up manually. This company in San Diego, they love the fact that we had these command ports. They love the fact that we had accessories. And so they were initially looking at a U press, only to realize that some of their staff the staff was shorter and unable to reach the lifting clamps on the arms. And so the Eco with the high lift feature, like we talked about earlier, was like a no-brainer for those guys. They got the attachments, they got all these different things, and then they made it easier for their staff to lift a print head up and move a flash, or whatever it was to put in an accessory like that. Like it just made their job and their life that much better. It was a no-brainer for the customer.
Yeah. I think ROQ's done a really good job of that. I've worked with, a lot of people know in the industry. I do a lot of consulting for, small shops, the big shops, to pretty ginormous 70 plus auto shops. And I've seen quite a few studies to where it's a pretty, proven statistic that women, when they run presses, women are better press operators than guys. So when you go into some of these larger facilities, you'll see a lot of women operating these machines. And I think ROQ has done a really good job of, building a lightweight pallet, building a pallet that goes on the press really easily, building a high lift feature that you can just hit a button. You're not getting under the press. You're not, like you said, making moving big print heads and stuff like that. So I think ROQ's done a really good job of catering to where, like everybody that knows me, I'm like 5 foot nothing. I'm a tiny guy out there, but these ROQ presses, I can go handle it like a beast.
Yeah.
Because everything is so nimble and, it's almost like the analogy of, really good carbon fiber, lightweight engineered bike. And that's kind of how I look at ROQ.
With everything we've talked about and the point that you just made, Danny, it's like this press is for everyone. Mm-hmm. And this press makes that job that much easier. Instead of being a barrier to success, it actually is helping, push them, to be able to get their job done and not have the headaches of, the bulk of a lot of these other presses that do have multiple levers underneath the pallets, that the pallets weigh 20, 30 pounds a piece or, whatever it is. So,
yeah. And Danny, with you being in larger shops and everything, I'm sure that you've seen presses out there that have flashes that actually live inside of their print head. Right.
Yeah.
So like if you go to move a flash and not to call out any other manufacturer, but there are presses out there where flashes live in the print head. And I've been in places where you have to have, 2 people to move a flash from a print head. You have to wait for it to cool down. Where on the ROQ, you're just basically rolling it over, plugging it into the command port that we mentioned earlier, and you're back into production.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I've thought about this that we haven't touched base on yet, that was a really big factor to me, was just the safety features of the press. So it's with the way the yellow bars work, it's you can confidently break a safety beam and know the press isn't going to index or have a mind of its own or do anything, stupid. And, they're for, the rare instance to where you might have somebody that, they might have missed a safety training meeting, or, they might trip and fall into the machine, or, who knows what happens. But if they do get into the machine and it indexes, ROQ has built a really good safety feature to where it's not going to kill you or cut you in half. To where I've seen some of these other presses, man, if you get in those presses and they index, it's not a good day at all.
It actually has like sensors on it, right? So if it like bumps into something at a certain rate of speed, or there's enough resistance on that pallet, it just like stops.
Yeah, it'll just stop. And, I think, from, my days of, owning the company and trying to scale and buy more presses, and you start seeing people that really, you're hiring people and throwing them on a press. And, it's a little scary to think that, if somebody doesn't get the proper safety training and they get in that press, it's not going to be a good day for you or your company. And, from an owner standpoint, the safety features that ROQ has put into these presses just makes you feel a lot better about having people operate those machines.
That's awesome. So I want to kind of wrap this up with just sort of a final thought. There's a lot of options when it comes to capital screen printing equipment. We've all been to trade shows, they all at the end of the day are attempting to do the same thing. They all screen print. We do know that. What is a big difference just, in that final thought? We've talked about a ton of stuff, but in the eco, more in terms of the future proofing. So you've had your press, right, for about 5 years, 6 years now.
Yeah.
And, what has that done for future proofing your shop as we do transition into digital, as inks change, which is a big thing that a lot of people aren't thinking about? Like plastisol, eventually, we've been saying it for years since I got into this industry, probably since you got into this industry too, it's going to go away. Plastics are harmful. We're trying to get rid of them. We're moving into a lot of different water-based systems. There's a bunch of different variations out there. And oddly, people don't think your press makes a difference with all that. How do your pallets heat up? Does it have individual lifting? Does it not? I mean, all those things that we kind of covered. So that was a really long-winded question, but what is the eco specifically doing for your business, and what can you tell our viewers out there when they're looking 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road in terms of future proofing with this type of equipment?
Yeah. So, I mean, just like I was saying, there's never been a design that's came across my desk or, an idea from a client that we couldn't execute on the eco. With all the control panel features between switching from water-based ink to where you can pre-flood the screen or go back to plastisol where it doesn't flood the screen, it's all a matter of a push button. So, the eco has really been, I guess, a tool for our company that, we've never turned down a job because we didn't have a press that wouldn't handle it. Like I said, flock foil, hybrid, sim process, special effects. The eco is a press that we can throw anything on and, be really, really comfortable that we're going to put out a product that, we're super, super proud about.
Awesome. And it's not something you're obviously itching to upgrade after 5 years, which is cool. It's like just adding another one, but that one that you have there, in the picture behind you, it does what it needs to do. It doesn't make you turn anything away. And, being able to add digital to it now that the digital technology is becoming more readily available in our field is going to allow you to start experimenting with some stuff I can't wait to see personally. So excited for you guys to get that going. And brings me back to college, actually, when I was screen printing on paper and doing mixed media. I kind of consider digital as my CMYK paper printing back in the day. And then I'd go in and I'd add paint and I'd add stuff on the top of it, which could be like, foil and flock and plastisol and all the cool things you're going to be able to do there. So it'll be really neat to see those mixed media processes really, come together and shine. So I want to kind of end the day. And I know Danny's been working on a lot of really cool stuff personally in education. He's got some seminars coming up. Their business is doing all sorts of new and innovative things. And I wanted to give him an opportunity to tell our viewers what he's got going on and where they can find him. And Danny, take it over, man.
Right on. Thank you, Ross. So next week, I'll be speaking at the Print Hustlers Conference. That's on Thursday afternoon. So if everybody, I think Printavo kind of put together a free online deal for everybody that they can log in and see all the different speakers Thursday and Friday. So that's something that everybody should check out. Tons of education.
So 23rd and 24th?
Yeah, that's the 23rd and 24th, next Thursday and Friday.
And if they don't have info, I think they can email Bruce, info@printavo.com. Otherwise, printavo.com, I bet they have sign up information, everything on their website.
Yeah. They've got sign up information. So next Thursday, I'm doing a presentation on kind of building the ultimate print shop. So sweet. we're really going to go into a lot of, what made DPH kind of, an industry leader, what got us to that point and, how we're managing it right now.
Very cool.
Outside of that, I've been working with the internal team here at DPH on creating a video blog series. We're going to be calling that Chasing Inks. And that's going to be a kind of just a fun little, a lot of education in there, a lot of behind the scenes of, how we do things at Denver Print House. I get asked all the time, how do you guys do that flock? How do you guys do that crackle? So, we've gotten to the point to where we feel really comfortable about, our client base. We're not out there stressing about people stealing our clients. People come to us because they know what to expect. And, we've been able to service our clients really well over the years. So we're going to kind of open up the back of the shop and, let people inside and, kind of take some jobs from start to finish, show people how those jobs go from, on somebody's idea in their head to a computer, to a direct to screen, to an ink room. And we're going to print some finished shirts and send those shirts out. So people will actually have a video to where they saw that shirt being made. Nice. And then they actually get that shirt and can wear it and study it and, recreate it themselves. So really our big thing is just kind of, helping push the industry forward, helping other shops. We're going to do a lot of field trips to, we want to go visit ROQ. We want to visit some of our, partners that we use product from, and, kind of just showcase and have a fun little video blog series about the industry.
That's awesome. We'd love to help promote that too, Danny. So make sure you get us some information that we can cross on social, as well as get up on our website so people can find you that way as well. And for those of you guys listening that don't know Danny, he is an unbelievably brilliant mind in our field, and opening those doors to show these techniques. I mean, I do know, he shrugs for those of you who can't see him, but too many times have we had people come in, with foil, and it's, what glue, how do I do this? What's the right temperature? And, we've always had to utilize Danny to help, fix those problems. And so for him to open up his doors and invite everyone in, any of you listening, definitely participate in this event that Danny's putting together, because it will be a wealth of knowledge that you're not going to find at a trade show. You're not going to find in a lot of the other education series. So thanks for putting that on, man. That's exciting.
And, you can definitely find me on Instagram, instagram.com/Denver Print House. Check us out on there. Another thing that we're doing right now is, we do a lot of contract bring for other shops all over the country. So if there's anybody out there that wants to, send some work our way, we'll definitely, work with you on how we print that. And, if you get a reorder from it, we'll help, walk you through to match that.
Awesome. What's the best way for people to get in touch with that kind of work? Is there an email address or website request form?
Yeah. So just go to denverprinthouse.com, and then we have a contact us section on there. So just shoot us an email, and, whether it's you need help with art sets or you need help with, sustainability. I've got two really, really good partners here at Denver Print House that know a ton of stuff that, is way over my head with different, parts of the business. And we're definitely, in the mindset of we want to help other shops. We know it always comes back and helps us out. So anybody that has any questions, whether it's sustainable, manufacturing to water-based inks to ROQ equipment, we're here to help the industry out.
That's awesome, Danny. Well, I want to thank Danny and Thomas for joining us today. I hope you all found this episode really helpful on the eco. I actually learned some really good stuff myself. So with that, I want to say to everyone, press onward, and we'll see you next week. Rock on. I want to give a huge thanks to our special guest, Danny Gruninger of Denver Print House, and ROQ US's own sales and consulting expert, Thomas Shaw, for participating today. As always, thank you for spending time with us this week. Next week, we'll be on hiatus, and we'll return at the end of the month for our next episode and begin a bi-weekly release schedule thereafter. Tune in at your convenience or wherever you listen to your podcast by searching ROQ Shop Talk. That's ROQ Shop Talk. On our next show, we'll feature the subject of dryers for screen printers, the difference and benefits of tunnels versus flash units. If you'd like to join the live Zoom hangout or even request to be on the show, please visit roq.us/ROQ Shop Talk. That's roq.us/ROQ Shop Talk. If you found today's episode helpful, the greatest accolade we could ask for is for you to recommend it to a friend who you think might find it helpful as well. Please like, share, and subscribe on social media. Until next time, rockers, press onward.